I think I just figured out why the US, UK, and France are so adamantly pro-Israel right now. Like, we all knew it had to do with money, but I'm gonna tell you exactly how.
Amazing viewer, I'm glad you stopped by. Thank you so much for your love and support for my content. Let's dive into today's video. I know you need this. This video will be answering one of the most pertinent questions that so many people have been asking, and I know it's your question. You've been asking yourself, why is this an apologetic support for the from the Western nation to Israel? So why are all this aid support going to Israel? One of those aids, let me play this first, so that you know what is happening.
The U.S. sends Israel about $3.8 billion of taxpayer money every single year. And since 1947, we've sent them about $260 billion. And just last week, Biden sends a $160 billion aid request to Congress for Israel and Ukraine. And as an American taxpayer, we all have to ask ourselves, why? Well, there's a few beneficiaries to the close-knit relationship between Israel and the United States, and I feel like every American citizen should know this. Number one is the top 1%, aka American companies. Just to name a few are weapons manufacturers and oil companies. You see, Israel, which has occupied Palestine, is in the perfect position overseeing the entire Middle East and serves as an extension of the American military. If any of these countries decide to get shiesty, and by shiesty I mean they decide that they want to control their own resources or elect their own leaders, the American military can respond fairly quickly in the interest of the top 1%. This system ensures that this area is continuously destabilized so that the weapon sales continuously flow from west to east and the oil flows from east to west. A lot of you may be asking, why do Zionists and top 1%ers have access to the American military so easily? Which brings me to my second beneficiary, this guy, and not just him, but every congressman and every senator. These Zionists and top 1%ers lobby and endorse people like Joe Biden, and anywhere from the Republicans to the Democrats, from the local level all the way to the federal level. And in return for getting elected, they give them access to American taxpayer money and military. There's a reason why a Florida congressman shows up to the GOP conference meeting in an Israeli uniform. It begs the question, who does this guy really represent? Us or a foreign government? The third beneficiary is the state of Israel, which gets billions of dollars of funding so it can commit ethnic cleansing and apartheid on the Palestinian people, all while having a little left over for healthcare. And on top of that, it has the most powerful military in the world fighting its wars for it. If you don't believe me, watch clip.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region.
It in fact had the worst reverberations on the region, and now Israel is pushing the United States to fight yet another war with Iran on its behalf. The only person in this mix that doesn't benefit from any of this is you and I, the American taxpayer. Instead, our hard-earned money is used to fund genocide so that the top 1% can make more money. And every few years, American citizens are manipulated into going overseas and fighting a war for freedom on behalf of the 1% and Zionists, where they don't come back alive at all, or they come back with severe PTSD.
I did that just for context. Let's go into the history now. This lady is providing us with historical evidence that proves this. Let's listen to the whole clip.
I think I just figured out why the US, UK, and France are so adamantly pro-Israel right now. Like, we all knew it had to do with money, but I'm gonna tell you exactly how. There's a shout out to my uncle who told me to do some research on the Ben Gurion Canal, and I did. And I took notes. Now, who is Ben Gurion? He is known as the founding father of Israel. He was the first prime minister, yes, you guessed it, in 1948. And this canal is a proposal to connect the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea through here, right? But we already have a connection, and it's called the Suez Canal. And if you don't know the history, let's get into it. The Suez Canal was opened in 1869, and the Suez Canal Company was given a 99-year lease to own the Suez Canal. And guess who owned the Suez Canal Company? The French and the British. I think it's also important to note that the British Empire originally was opposed to building the canal because they thought it would directly threaten their economy, but instead they just decided let's benefit from it, bought 44% of the shares in 1875, so they were all good. Now in 1888, the maritime powers, Great Britain, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Spain, France, Italy, the Netherlands, Russia, and Turkey signed this thing called the Convention of Constantinople. What's important about this is it said that every single nation should be able to use the canal, whether at war, at peace. It cannot be denied access to anyone. In 1949, Egypt denied Israel access after the Nakba, after they did what they did. That was a huge deal. It was a big statement because of this. Now, in 1956, when the US was basically having a proxy war with the Soviet Union in that region, the Egyptian president at the time, Gamal Abdel Nasser, decided to nationalize the Suez Canal, so take it away from the British and French-owned company, essentially because the US reneged on a previous agreement to finance the Aswan Dam project that was for the Nile, getting water and electricity to the Egyptian population, etc., etc. This was a massive shift, a huge move in the region and globally, probably why it was also used as a battleground in the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. Now, after the Arab-Israeli War and the Geneva Conference, etc., what you need to know is Israel and Egypt signed a peace treaty at Camp David, signed by Jimmy Carter. This is from a US government website, by the way. My sources are checked, tried, and trusted. And the US was given credit for orchestrating a peace treaty between these two countries. Again, why were they involved from the beginning? Who knows? The US has always been here. We're in 1979 now. Should all be cool. A peace treaty was signed. Like, everything is perfect. Suez Canal is open to everyone. Cool, cool, great, right? Wrong. 16 years before this, and even before the Arab-Israeli War, the US Department of Energy and the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory had been making a plan for something else. In 1963, they made a classified plan to help excavate the Negev desert hills with 520 nuclear bombs to help create a canal. This was only made public in 1993, 1994, depending on the sources you check. So at the time of the peace treaty, nobody knew this was going on, except, of course, Jimmy Carter. Now, we could also talk about how the war was a product of collusion between Britain, France, and Israel, and they decided to initiate the war, but we'll save that for another time. You might be asking yourself, why do they want to build another canal? Like, we have the Suez Canal right here. Why do we need a canal through here? This is where the money comes in, baby. Without the Suez Canal right here, ships from Asia would have to go all the way down and around Africa in order to reach Europe. This canal right here currently sees the passage of 12 to 15%, depending on the source you check, of the world's trade and 10% of the global oil distribution. Just this little canal right here. Now, who benefits from this? Egypt, of course. It's their canal, right? In 2023, they broke records and made a revenue of 9.4 billion US dollars. Yay for Egypt, right? Well, how do you think the US, the UK, France, and Israel feel about that? Not good. Suez Canal is not ideal. Up until 2014, you could only go one way, which meant for 6 hours it went in one direction and 6 hours it went in the other, which was super not efficient. It was also not wide enough to accommodate some of the largest ships in the world. So what happened in 2021? You might remember this. One of the world's biggest ships jammed the Suez Canal, leading to approximately $900 million of losses. The US was really not happy about this, and the Pentagon released a statement that this made it difficult for the movement of their military vessels, specifically to Israel, but not to worry, they had other ways. Now, when they're planning the Ben Gurion Canal, they're planning to have it 50 meters deep, which is 10 meters deeper than the Suez Canal, and 200 meters wide, which will facilitate the biggest ships in the world going in both directions. Not only that, but directly competing with the Suez Canal, Israel projects that it would make them an annual revenue of about $6 billion a year. Plus. And now for the interesting part. There's one feature about the Suez Canal that's also really inconvenient, and that's the fact that it's built on pretty sandy shores. Now, I'm not an engineer. Now, from what I read, sandy shores are pretty inconvenient for a canal. They constantly need maintenance. But where Israel wants to dish it out to the Mediterranean Sea, it's a rocky land texture, which is ideal for these conditions. Let's zoom into this. That's the Gaza Strip. How annoying is the placement of the Gaza Strip for them? They have to actually turn the canal around so that it avoids this piece of land. Do you see what I'm getting at? They don't want ships to have to do this entire round and add a little time and inconvenience to their journey and have such close proximity to Gaza. What if they just built it through Gaza? Oh no, wait, they don't want to do that. They don't want to help the Palestinian economy. What do you mean? That would defeat the entire purpose, wouldn't it? Unless they took that land. Yeah, that's what's going on. Israel wants to seize Gaza, annex the land, take it over, so they can build their canal through it. And the US, the UK, and France are all for that, because it's going to make them a lot of money at the cost of millions of lives destroyed. Unfreaking believable. Building this canal will not only redirect trade, But historically, Arab states use the Suez Canal to put pressure on Israel. So it will not only increase Israel's geopolitical standing, but it will also become a strategic asset for diplomatic negotiations for Israel and take away the most powerful thing the Arab states had against the US, UK, France, and Israel to keep them in line. And there you have it. That's the reason.
A number of people went on and reacted to this particular post. Let's listen to a few of them.
Yep, and it ties into why Russia and China are fighting. Russia and China aren't fighting. Why Russia is messing with Ukraine. They're just trying to get their trade routes back open. China and Russia are. And of course, the Suez Canal has to do it. Like, it's always about money and like goods and materials. But did you know here in America, like if you go look right now, TVs are like crazy cheap, like ridiculously cheap. And the reason for that apparently is because they were sitting in those storage containers for like, remember 2 years when we were having our whole COVID thing? There's an excess of supply in this country right now because the supply chain was damaged, and Russia is trying to restart the Silk Road trade with China.
This is exactly why I freaking love TikTok. Go listen to what she has to say, and also here's an added bonus for you. In 2000, there was this massive natural gas field discovered off the coast of Gaza. And since it's in the maritime borders of Gaza, so naturally it belongs to Palestine. But negotiations have been going on from 2000 to 2021 because the oppressive state that people are claiming is not oppressive at all, which is Israel, wants to control it. So this article published in June 18th, 2023 has this to say. Benjamin Netanyahu said that progress in that gas field would put a hinge on preserving the state of Israel's security and diplomatic needs. I mean, why would another country that you're claiming you're not oppressing developing their own gas field that will ensure they have an economic boost? How is that going to put a hinge on your own country? Here's another article from 14th of September 2023. Egypt and Palestine were finalizing the agreement to start excavating that natural gas field. The original date was set in 2024, but they decided to accelerate that date instead of 2024 to, you guessed it, October of this year. You see, this is what people are failing to realize. It's not about Hamas. It was never about Hamas. Hamas is the new weapons of mass destruction excuse that was used to invade Iraq, killing over 1 million of its population and destroying its infrastructure. That's what's happening right now in Gaza. They're destroying Gaza's infrastructure so they can't benefit from that natural gas reserve that they have.
Point is, many countries want the land of Palestine, and that's why it's so hard for them to get any help. Because at the end of the day, how much can we line our pockets?
And the sad answer is because they don't care about what's right or wrong, or about human life, or dignity. They care about their crazy evangelical religion and money. That's the answer. Religion and capitalism is why the Western world supports Israel. Half of evangelicals in the US support Israel because they believe it is important for fulfilling end-time prophecies. They think Israel's got to exist so they can get raptured. Yeah. And the other proof for capitalism can be found in headlines like these ones. Gaza is the Israel arms industry's testing ground. Cruel experiments of Israel's arms industry. Gaza, a testing ground for Israeli military technology. For Israeli arms makers, the Gaza war is a cash cow. Gaza, a cruel testing ground for Israel's weapons marketing campaign. Feel free to Google those. You can read the whole articles. They're easy to find. The gist of it is the weapons industry in Israel is one of their main parts of their GDP, just like it is in America. And being able to bomb and oppress people in the Gaza Strip provides a testing ground for all of their weapons that they can then export and sell to the world as weapons that have been proved in war. against a civilian population that's 50% children. And the West goes along with that because they make money too. This article, Hamas has created additional demand. Wall Street eyes big profits from the war. Basically, Toronto Dominion Bank and Morgan Stanley got caught being all excited that this new war in the Middle East and Israel's vast use of weapons against the Gaza Strip is going to bring them in record profits this year because they're so heavily invested in the defense industry. Then while that headline tries to say Hamas creates that additional demand, they're not the ones buying those weapons. It's Israel. So yeah, we all allow it in the West because we profit off of it. And because we're all based on colonization, just like Israel is.
I want to make my conclusive statement from what this lady has just said here. We perish for lack of knowledge. When we don't know things, it's when we are caught up in everything and we align ourselves with things that we don't really fully understand. So this has just brought and made this curiosity to know more about the history. And yeah, I think that's what we should do. We go and dig deep so that whenever we speak out of evidences that we've read and we've researched on.
If you didn't know about this, I didn't know about this, I am mind blown. I want to find out more. I am going to see when they post more and I want to do my own research, but I had no idea and it makes so much freaking sense.
I'm glad you watched to this extent. Thank you so much for supporting my content. Leave a comment, leave your thought kindly. I'm so curious to hear from you. I appreciate that you stopped by. Share my video kindly. I appreciate it.